Dre Baldwin, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Topic of this video: winning is easy, losing is hard. I've actually been thinking about this for several reasons, several things I want to talk about, but I'll give you an example just from today. I was running outside today, which I usually do certain days of the week. I run outside, but this morning it was windy as hell. It's been very windy in South Florida for the last like three or four days. And when I say really windy, I mean like kind of wind that make you feel like not even being outside. So it was like 20 to 30 degree mile per hour winds. And any of you who runs outside or you ride a bicycle outside, you know it's very difficult to do those things when the wind is blowing like that. And I was watching the weather the last couple of days and deciding, am I going to even run outside on this particular morning, or will I just hop on a treadmill instead? Anyway, I end up running outside, and I'm outside warming up, and I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to work. But I end up running anyway because I had read about it. I went and read like running in the wind, what you should know about it. And it was an article that said when you run in the wind, ideally you want the first half of your run to be running into the wind. So they call that the headwind. That's the wind that's like blowing against you, so it's harder to run. And then when you're in the second half of your run, you want the wind to be a tailwind, which means the wind's behind you, so it makes it easier. And luckily, even though I don't control the wind, the path that I was running, it actually did work out that way. So when I was going this way, I was running towards South Beach. The wind was hitting me in the face. And then when I was coming back from Miami Beach, then the wind was behind me. So it actually ended up working. So the way down there, I was running like way slower than I normally do, slower than the pace that I actually want to hit. But I wasn't frustrated about it because I already had the expectation in my head that it was going to be like that. I even read that when you're running into the wind, your pace is like 30 to 60 seconds slower per mile than you normally would be, just because you're running into the wind. And that matters if you're a person who runs like, and you get in races and run competitively, which I actually do. Not a professional runner, but I do get in races and I know what numbers I want to hit. That matters. So now that I had that expectation, I wasn't mad that I wasn't running the pace that I was going to. Even though if I hadn't read that, I still would have knew that, because I know when you're running in the wind, it's more difficult. But at the same time, I had the anticipation that on the comeback, that it was going to be a lot easier because the wind was going to be behind me, which is what happened. And then in the second half of my run, it was way easier. I was running a whole lot faster, and it didn't even take nearly as much energy to run coming back as it did going in. Going in, it was kind of like, it's almost like I was running in sand or running in water. Any of you ever seen somebody running on like an underwater treadmill? It was like that on the way out, but coming back, it was like super easy. So I had some wind behind me. And also, for the record, for those of you who even care about this stuff, the trade-off is not an equal deal. So the amount that you get slowed down when the wind is in your face is more than the amount that you get sped up when the wind is behind you. So it's not like it makes up the difference when the wind is behind you. It's actually, you lose either way if you have wind in your face. But anyway, the whole point of all of this is that when you're in a situation where things are not working the way that you want them to, getting out of that stagnation and getting into the positive momentum that you want, that's the hard work. The hard work is when things are not working and you're trying to change the situation, all the effort that you had to put into stopping that momentum of going in the wrong way and getting it going the other way, that's where the effort comes in. That's where all the power gets used. That's where all your resources have to be put in. But on the flip side, once things start working and they're going the way that you want them to, the amount of resources that it takes to allow them to simply keep going the way that they are is very little. It's minimal. Because once you're already winning, it almost seems as if the winning just keeps happening naturally and you only had to try and you just keep winning. Any of you who's ever been in that situation, usually people call that positive momentum, but momentum works negatively the same way it works positively. But usually when we say momentum, we usually mean it in a positive way. That's what happens when we get into that winning space. The challenge is not that nobody understands this. Everybody understands this, even if you never articulated it or languaged it out the way that I'm doing right now. The challenge is that many people don't have the discipline or the motivation to even start moving in the direction of the discipline of doing all the stuff that it's going to take to break the inertia of things not working. In other words, the example I gave you at the beginning of this video, when I'm running into the wind, what many people do in that situation, and again, you can use running as an example, or you can just use your own life or business or career or whatever as an example, that when you're out there running into the wind and the wind is hitting you in the face and it's harder to do things than you expected it to be, and you're like, damn, how long am I going to have to grind and struggle this hard to make things work? what most people do in that situation is they quit. And my run this morning, just to give you all a framework for, again, those of you who understand these distances, I ran 7 miles this morning. So it was basically 3.5 miles hard with the wind in my face, and then 3.5 miles, quote unquote, easy with the wind behind me. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, if you're in shape, then I guess it's easy, but it's still 7 miles. Point is, most people quit during the first 3.5 miles because it's too hard. And therefore, because they quit during the first 3.5 miles, they never get around to the second 3.5 miles when it's relatively easy compared to what the first half was like. And see, in that second half, when it's relatively easy and things seem to just be working naturally and everything you're doing looks like quote unquote talent. In the sports world, you hear this a lot. People, when you're able to do a thing at a high level and you make it look easy, people tend to attribute that to talent, when oftentimes, every once in a while it is talent, but oftentimes it's just someone has done the work. They've done the discipline. Actually, let me not even say oftentimes. It depends on who the person is. All right, so someone who might be just starting out at something, they're just naturally precocious at a thing, maybe it is talent. But once someone has been doing the thing for a while and they put in the work and they put in the time, again, it may seem like talent because most people look at it and they realize, well, I can't do that, so obviously this person must be talented. That's not often the case. Sometimes that person has just done the work that you haven't done. They've gone through the hard 3.5 miles so that when you see them doing the easy 3.5 miles, you assume, oh, they just must be more talented than me, when that's not it. They're actually just more disciplined than you. That's why they have the ability to do things and make them look easy that you couldn't do even if you tried, because they've done work that you don't know about. So it's the same analogy. Some of you may have heard that if a space shuttle is leaving the Earth's atmosphere, it uses, I don't know what the number is, people say 90% of the fuel in the rocket gets used just getting out of the Earth's atmosphere and getting away from the gravitational pull of the planet Earth. But once it gets out of the Earth's atmosphere, it doesn't even need that much more rocket fuel or that much more resources or energy in order to keep flying. It becomes relatively easy once it gets out of the Earth's atmosphere. Most of the energy is used in the beginning, just getting out of the stagnation, if you will, of gravity pulling the rocket back down to the Earth. And this is the exact thing that I want you all to understand. For those of you who are struggling, grinding, pushing hard at something right now and it's not working and you're not getting the result that you want, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have things in proper perspective. Go talk to someone maybe who has already been through what you're going through and they know what it looks like on the other side, so that you have the proper expectation of how this is supposed to go, how long is it supposed to take, how hard is it supposed to be, so that now you can frame it properly. Okay, I know this is going to be difficult for this much time, but then when I get here, then it's going to start working the way that it's supposed to. And that might help you be more motivated to keep going. It may also help you be more disciplined to stick to the script and doing the thing that you're doing. Speaking of running, for example, I know personally from my own personal experience that whenever I take time off from running, I usually take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks off every year from doing any running at all. And I'm not talking about competitions, just running at all, just to let my body rest. I know it takes me about another 4 to 6 weeks to get back into my game shape, where I know I can just dust off anybody or most people. And I'm going at the pace, I'm hitting the paces and the numbers that I want to hit. It takes me about 4 to 6 weeks to get back into that game shape. I know that, and I have that expectation. So whenever I take time off, I'm not annoyed at myself if I'm 3 weeks into running again and I'm not going as fast as I want to go, because I know exactly what it's going to take, and I know what it's going to feel like once I get to the place that I want to get to. You all got to set your proper expectations in the exact same way that I'm laying out here. So workonyourgameuniversity.com, work with me directly, have me as your coach, get your mindset right. Then we get into the strategy, systems, and the accountability to make all of this stuff work consistently. Work on your game. Dre Baldwin.